morning, good morning. Okay, we are here back to Perek Bays in Pirkei Avos. We are up to Mishna Zion. Af hu, we're continuing Hill's statements. Af hu ra'a gilgailus achas shetzafa al pnei hamayim. He saw a skull floating on the waters. Amalei al da'ateft atfuch b'seif mitayfoich yutufun. Speaking in Aramaic, he said that because you drowned somebody and you're now floating on the water, that's why you're floating on the water. And eventually, those who caused you to die, and in other words, he saw just the skull. Apparently, it was a person who was beheaded, decapitated, and tossed into the water. And those who did it to you will eventually also meet their ends like this. Basically, the message in a nutshell is what goes round comes round. And what you put into this world will eventually catch up with you, and that concept that we understand. The question, of course, is that not every it doesn't always work like that. There are some mob leaders who died peacefully in their bed, and there are some cute little girls who were victims of murder. So what's the pshat? So the message is, I believe, that justice is served. Now, does that mean, what's the pshat? Do we say it's because of Gilgulim? Does that mean that every single little, cute little kid who was killed because of a terrorist attack was in a previous lifetime a murderer? No, it doesn't have to mean that. But it does mean that justice is served. And Mitzvah Hashem, in the next world, there are good answers which we will understand. It doesn't mean that they're bad people. It doesn't mean there are answers that it doesn't have to be so simple. Like, hey, you're a terrible person, so you get punished. There's deeper things in this world. This world is just a entrance way to the next world, which is far, there's a lot of things that could happen in this world that will make an entrance way to the next world. So I'm not giving an answer now. I'm just saying that there is justice and there is a satisfactory answer which we will accept and understand and enjoy in the next world. And in the next world, the fact that this kid only lived for 3 years and was brutally murdered is not going to bother us, because we will realize how amazing it is. And wherever that person belongs to be in Shemayim, whether it's a Gilgal, whether it was, we don't have to understand it now, even though now it only makes sense. Oh, you were previously a murderer. Oh man, a kid was killed. He was probably a terrible murderer. You don't have to say that. You just say there's a satisfactory answer. And that's what he's saying. He's couching it in terms that sound like a satisfactory answer. Oh, you were a murderer, so Mamela, you got murdered. It just means that justice will be served. That's what this Mishna, and there is a satisfactory answer for everything. Mishna Ches, who are you Omer? Marba Basar, Marba Rima. If you have too much meat, the more meat you pack on yourself, the more food you eat, the more worms will there be and maggots will there be in the next world, after to eat the body after a person's gone. And this means that the more things a person gets right now, there's a downside to everything, that you're eventually going to have to deal with the used up item. For example, you get a new car, eventually it's going to be just an old rust. You're going to have to get rid of it somehow, which is why leasing is so good, because eventually you never have to deal with the rusted car at the end of the day. It's just gone. But that's what it means. For example, I'll just give a classic example. If you're ever on a long car trip with your kids, so for the first, let's say you're driving to Toronto or New York or whatever, so it's, if you're on a 15-hour drive, so for the first 9-10 hours, you're not planning on stopping, you say no drinks. Because I know if you drink within half an hour, I'm going to have to stop. So I don't want to deal with the negative after effects of giving you pleasure right now. Of course, I'm not child abuse. I'm just telling them don't drink. So I'm not giving with the negative. I don't want to deal with those negative after effects of having the pleasure right now. So I say no drinks until we get to, we're planning a rest stop at, let's say, 2:30. Okay, starting at 1:45, we can start drinking, or starting 1:30, whatever it is. So, you make a cheshbon of when you're going to deal with the after effects. So similarly, a person going through life should realize that everything good that he gets comes along with negative after effects. That's negative after effects. Similarly, the more you have right now, that also can give current daiga. If you have a huge house, then you have to pay not only huge insurance and you also have to pay. You also have to worry about security. You also have to worry about this. There's so many things that you have to worry about the more you have. Of course, people say, give me the nechasim and give me the daiga. Don't worry, I'll deal with such daigas. But I definitely understand that sentiment. But you have to understand that it's true. For example, I used to have money in stocks, and every time you used to listen to the news every day, is it going up, is it going down? And you literally drive yourself crazy. You go insane. It went down. So finally, once you go ahead and you say, no more, if you don't have the money anymore, because you don't have the money anymore, so then I listen to the stock report the same way I listen to an advertisement for, something that is totally not nogami. My heart rate doesn't go up, and you know what? I'm much happier. I don't think about it. I don't have those high ups and high lows, and I just don't think about it. I don't care about it. And it's as if, so it's a much easier life. Of course, we know the famous mashal of this guy who went as a big businessman. He took a week off after years and years on the job, and he goes down to this small, South American island, and he's sitting there on the beach. He sees a local native come over and scoop up 3 or 4 fish and crab and whatever in like half a second, sell it, and then come sit next to him on the beach. He's like, that was amazing. You just caught fish in the most unbelievable way. So the guy's like, yeah, I've been doing this my whole life. I sell, $5 worth, and then I come sit on the beach the rest of the day. The guy's like, that's phenomenal. Why don't you sell more? The guy's like, why would I sell more? Because then you can make $10 in so little time. Like, what am I going to do with $10? Well, then tomorrow you can invest in somebody to help you sell. You catch the whole day, and then you pay him to sell, and then the next day you'll be able to make $15. And then what? And then eventually you can have 2 people work for you, and $20. You can make 30. But then you can buy a boat. You can do it out offshore. Within 2 years you can have $1 trillion. And the guy's like, and then what? And then you can open up a company and start exporting and do this and do that. And then what? And then you can be a multi-millionaire. And then what? And then you'll be able to come and retire and sit on the beach the whole day. He says, that's what I do. I sit on the beach the whole day. So we fool ourselves that money is that money is this happiness, and then the reality is those people who have so much money it's really blind. It's really blinding for if a person doesn't have money, they look at these people who have money so jealously, and so don't worry about it. There's a downside to it. Now, of course, I'm not suggesting that everybody who has money give away their money unless they want to give it to shul. But I'm not suggesting that you give away your money, but what I am suggesting is that those that don't have it should go ahead and not look at the other people with such green in their eyes, such envy. Just go ahead and realize that it comes along with daigus, and nothing's free in this world, and it's not necessarily kedai. Marba noshim, marba kshafim. A person has more women, more wives. He has more witchcraft in his life. What does that mean? That means that if a person has 2 or 3 or 4 wives, each wife is going to be subject to competition to try to get the husband's affection, and they will resort to anything in order to get that. So they will resort even to witchcraft. Specifically focusing on this line, you have to realize that if you ever put somebody in a corner and make him fend for something so natural as having a husband's affection, then they will resort to anything, and it's a dangerous thing. The more slave women a person has, the more zima there is around. And unfortunately, it's only too true. How many times a person has, whatever, we won't go into details, but there's the kids are, put up borders and make sure that things are not left to the Yetzirah. Marba avadim, marba gazel. The more slaves a person has, the more thievery there is. So the point of this Mishnah is that the more gashmias a person has, everything comes with a price tag, and not necessarily is it not kedai, but it comes with a price tag, and eventually you're going to have to pay it. However, if the Torah, though, too much Torah does not come with a price tag. Marba Torah, the more Torah you have, marba chaim, the more life you have. Marba yeshiva, the more students you have, marba chachma, the more wisdom you have. As it says, I learned so much from my students. Marba eitzah, the more times you ask people for advice. Marba tvuna, the more understanding you get from everybody. You learn a different angle of the topic in question. Marba tzedakah, the more tzedakah you give, marba shalom, the more peace you have. As the more you give away, the more peace you get. And kana shem tov, a person acquires a good name. It's a good thing to acquire, as we'll see in an upcoming Mishnah. But kana la'atzmai, that only helps for you. There's nothing you could do technically in the next world with a good name. It helps, and we'll see. But it's only acquired for you. It's something that you get for you. And if you get divrei Torah, you get life in olam haba. And we will stop over here and continue again next tomorrow. Have an amazing day.